All right, let's dive into one of the weirdest, most unbelievable chapters in all of military history. We're talking about the time a modern, battle-hardened army literally declared war on its own national bird and lost. Yep, you heard that right. This is the story of Australia's Great Emu War.
So the whole premise here is just so bizarre you'd think it was made up. But believe me, this really happened, back in Australia in 1932.
I mean, it sounds like the setup to a joke, right? Can a military, a modern one with actual machine guns, really be defeated by a giant flock of flightless birds?
And we're not just talking about a couple of guys with rifles. We're talking about the Royal Australian Artillery. Their target? Emus. And their weapons? 2 state-of-the-art Lewis automatic machine guns and, get this, 10,000 rounds of ammunition. You look at that on paper and you think, okay, this is gonna be a total cakewalk.
But yeah, that's not what happened. The emus won. They just outran, outsmarted, and totally defeated the military operation that was sent to get rid of them. So the big question is, how on earth did this feathered fiasco actually happen?
Okay, so to really get what was going on, we have to rewind the clock a bit and head to Western Australia in the early 1930s. See, this wasn't just some random attack. It was the result of an absolute perfect storm of problems all hitting at once.
So picture this. After World War I, the Australian government gave thousands of veterans land to become farmers. But then, the Great Depression hits, and it hits hard. Wheat prices just tanked, and these farmers were pushed right to the edge. Literally, their entire survival was riding on that year's harvest.
And then, as if things weren't bad enough, this happens. A massive migration of about 20,000 emus, all looking for food and water because of a drought, shows up. And what do they find? Well, they find a giant all-you-can-eat buffet of water and perfect ripe wheat. They started absolutely wrecking the farmers' only hope of making any money.
So these farmers, many of them ex-soldiers themselves, they were desperate. They did what seemed logical to them at the time. They went to the Minister of Defense and basically asked for military backup. They saw the emus as an invading army, and they wanted machine guns to fight back.
And believe it or not, the request was approved. This set the stage for one of the most ridiculous matchups in history. So let's look at the tail of the tape here.
Okay, so in one corner, you have the Australian military. We've got Major G.P.W. Meredith, a couple of soldiers, 2 rapid-fire machine guns, and a truck full of ammo. And in the other corner, the emus. Now, they didn't have guns, but they had their own special skills. They could run like the wind, almost 50 kilometers an hour. They were incredibly tough, and this is the key. When they were attacked, they didn't just run away in one big group. They scattered in every direction, like a perfect guerrilla fighting force.
All right, so the stage is set. The military has overwhelming firepower. This should be quick and easy, right? Well, not exactly. It was anything but.
Let's just look at the first few attempts. On November 2nd, the soldiers spot a flock. They open fire, but the emus immediately scatter so effectively they only manage to kill about a dozen. Then, on November 4th, they set up what they think is a perfect ambush near a dam for 1,000 emus. But again, the second a shot is fired, the birds just explode in all directions. The gunners fire hundreds and hundreds of rounds and kill only 12 birds. After about a week, and using up 2,500 rounds of ammo, the military just retreated.
You can just feel the frustration, right? Major Meredith, the guy in charge, was just blown away by his enemy. He said, and this is a real quote, that if they had an army division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, they could take on any army in the world. He said they could face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks. He was realizing that traditional warfare just didn't work here.
So, okay, the military did go back for a second try, but spoiler alert, it didn't go any better. So after all this, what was the final score in this very, very strange conflict?
After everything, all the planning, the thousands of bullets fired, the multiple deployments, the official number of emus killed by the military operation was about 986, which, sounds like a decent number. Until you see this.
Yep, they were up against an estimated 20,000 of them. So killing less than 1,000? That's barely a scratch. It was a statistical blip. It had pretty much no real impact on the problem at all.
So yeah, the war was called off. It was a complete tactical failure, and honestly, a bit of a public relations nightmare. The Australian military, which had fought in major global wars, had been completely and utterly outsmarted by its national bird.
So, if the military couldn't handle it, what finally did the trick? Well,
It was a much simpler, way less dramatic solution. The government just put a bounty on the emus, paying farmers and hunters for each one. And this approach, a decentralized, targeted system, it worked way better than sending in the army with machine guns ever did.
The Great Emu War is, let's be honest, a hilarious and kind of humbling story. But it also leaves us with this really sharp question. It's a great reminder that sometimes just throwing overwhelming force at a complex problem, especially an ecological one, is just the wrong tool for the job. And it really makes you wonder, right? In our modern world, with huge challenges like climate change and biodiversity loss, are we still trying to solve these delicate problems with the modern equivalent of a machine gun?